The rain had been falling since afternoon, turning the sidewalks into rivers that reflected the tired glow of store signs. Most drivers hurried past, wipers slapping, engines pushing for home. Evan slowed down. At the bus stop outside the grocery store, a girl sat hunched on the metal bench, soaked to the bone, one hand braced over her belly. She looked far too young to be carrying that kind of weight. He pulled his old pickup to the curb and rolled the window down. "You'll freeze out here," he said gently. "I can give you a ride. There's a diner up the road. It's warm, no questions asked." She lifted her head. Wet hair clung to her cheeks, her eyes hollow from more than the cold. "I'm fine," she whispered, though her voice cracked. Evan didn't push. He pointed toward the glow of neon 2 blocks away. "I was heading there anyway. You can take the booth by the window. I'll get you tea. After that, if you'd rather I call someone official, I'll do it. But I won't just drive off and pretend I didn't see you." For a long moment she didn't move, then she gave a small nod. Inside the truck, he slid his spare hoodie across the seat. She hesitated, then pulled it over her thin sweatshirt. The sleeves swallowed her hands. Evan felt something shift in his chest. The diner smelled of bacon grease and old coffee, its windows fogged from the storm outside. He ordered tea and soup, then stepped away to use the payphone by the register. The county hotline worker took his report, promised to send a social worker in the morning. Evan wrote the woman's name on a napkin and slid it across the table when he returned. "This is who'll meet us tomorrow. Tonight the couch is yours if you want it. My daughter's home, she's 10, so you'll be safe. No pressure." The girl cupped the tea in both hands like it was the only warmth in the world. After a silence that stretched too long, she finally said, "Riley." He nodded. "Good to meet you, Riley. I'm Evan." She ate the soup carefully, spoonful by spoonful, like someone who had learned to make small things last. When she finished, she pushed the bowl away, embarrassed at how empty it was. He didn't say anything, only left his truck keys between them on the table. "If my kid were out in this rain," he said softly, "I'd pray someone stopped." Her eyes flicked to the keys, then to his face. Slowly she nodded. "Okay." The drive back was quiet. Porch lights blurred through the rain, and Riley kept both arms wrapped around herself as if bracing against something heavier than the storm. At the house, Evan showed her the couch, the folded blanket, and the bathroom down the hall. She paused in the doorway, clutching the blanket. "Why are you doing this?" He didn't have a speech prepared. "Because it's raining," he said simply. That night, the house finally settled into silence. Riley lay awake on the couch, phone clutched in her hand. A buzz lit up the screen. She turned it toward her chest, but not before Evan, walking past with a glass of water, caught a glimpse. The message read, "Don't come back, you ruined this family, and don't think running to strangers will save you." Evan didn't say a word, but the look on Riley's face told him this storm wasn't just weather, it was already following her. Morning came with a sky washed pale, the kind that made last night's storm feel like a bad dream. Riley woke to the smell of coffee and the crackle of bacon in the pan. For a moment she forgot where she was, until she saw the blanket on her lap, the little crib tucked into the corner, and Evan moving quietly in the kitchen. A knock came at the door. Riley tensed, clutching the blanket like armour. "It's okay," Evan said, wiping his hands on a towel. "That'll be Miss Alvarez. She's the county worker I spoke to last night." The woman who stepped inside was middle-aged, calm in the way only someone who'd seen too much could be. She smiled at Riley, not pitying, not harsh, just steady. "Good morning. I'm here to make sure everything's safe for tonight, nothing complicated." Her eyes took in the couch, the folded blankets, the stocked fridge, the bathroom down the hall. She scribbled notes, nodded once, then slid a simple form onto the table. "This is just to say Riley can stay here short term, one step at a time." Riley hesitated with the pen. Her name looked shaky on the paper, like it had been written by someone else. That's when Lily padded into the kitchen, her hair a tangle of sleep. She stopped short when she saw Riley, her gaze dropping to the round belly she couldn't ignore. "Dad?" she asked softly. Evan knelt beside her. "This is Riley. She needed a place out of the storm. She'll be here for a little while." Lily studied Riley with the blunt honesty only kids have. "Is she nice?" Riley swallowed hard. "I'll try to be," she whispered. Something in Lily's face softened. She climbed onto a chair at the table, pulled out her crayons, and began to draw without another word. Ms. Alvarez gathered her clipboard. "You've got what you need for now," she told Evan. "I'll check in later this week." Before she left, she turned to Riley. "Rest. You don't have to figure it all out today." The house grew quiet again. Evan returned to the garage to tinker with a carburetor, leaving Riley and Lily in the kitchen. For a while they sat in silence, the scratch of crayons the only sound. Then Lily slid a paper across the table. It was a stick figure with a round belly and a sun drawn overhead. "This is you," she said matter-of-factly. Riley stared at it, her throat tight. "Thank you," she managed. That night, after Lily had gone to bed, Evan found Riley sitting on the couch with her phone pressed to her chest. The screen had just gone dark, but her face told the story. "You okay?" he asked. She shook her head, eyes wet. "It's from my uncle. He says I'm not welcome home, that I made our family a joke." Evan didn't try to fix it with words. He just sat in the armchair across from her, the silence steady like a wall she could lean against. But deep down he knew the storm Riley carried wasn't over. It had only just reached their doorstep. The next morning, Riley woke to the sound of Evan loading his truck. Bills were spread across the kitchen table, the county form tucked neatly under a magnet on the fridge. Her phone still burned in her pocket from the message last night, but she pushed it down. For now, she had to think about diapers, formula, and the ordinary things that kept a baby alive. Evan suggested they go together. "It's easier if we stock up now," he said. Lily begged to come too, and soon the three of them were walking through the automatic doors of the small-town grocery store, pushing a squeaky cart under the bright, buzzing lights. Riley kept one hand on her thin envelope of vouchers. She'd never used them before. The paper felt heavy, like proof of everything her family had accused her of. In the cereal aisle, Lily darted ahead, holding up a box with a cartoon tiger. "This one!" she shouted. Evan chuckled, tossing it into the cart. Riley trailed behind, eyes flicking from shelf to shelf, heart pounding each time someone glanced her way. At the register, her worst fear came true. The cashier didn't look unkind, but the man behind them sighed loudly, arms crossed. "These vouchers always take forever," he muttered. Riley froze. Her cheeks burned. She fumbled with the papers, nearly dropping them. She wanted to disappear. Then Lily tugged her sleeve and held up a drawing she'd made in the cart. A stick figure with a round belly holding a baby, a giant sun overhead. "Look," she said proudly, "it's you." And she's smiling. The cashier softened. Even the man in line looked away, ashamed of his own words. Riley blinked down at the drawing, her throat tight. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. Out in the parking lot, Riley slid into the truck, still clutching the picture. "My mum always said I'd bring nothing but shame," she murmured, almost to herself. Evan started the engine but didn't pull out. He leaned his hands on the steering wheel. "Shame doesn't keep food in a fridge," he said quietly, "and nothing doesn't hold a baby this strong." Tears slid down Riley's cheeks before she could stop them. Lily leaned forward from the back seat and patted her shoulder with a small hand. "You don't have to cry alone," she said simply. For the first time in weeks, Riley let the tears fall. Back at the house, Evan carried in the groceries, then sat at the kitchen table with the stack of unpaid bills. He rubbed his temples, staring at the red due dates. Riley laid the drawing on the fridge like a banner of defiance. The moment of peace lasted only a few minutes. Evan opened the mail and found a letter from the city inspector. His stomach dropped. 30 days to correct safety violations at the garage, or face shut down. The letter from the city inspector lay open on the table, the words stamped in bold, 30 days to correct safety violations or face closure. Evan read it twice, then set it down with a sigh heavy enough to shake the lamp. Riley lingered near the sink, drying a plate. "What happens if you can't fix it?" she asked softly. Evan rubbed the back of his neck. "Then the garage closes. And without the garage, there's no mortgage, no groceries, no—" He stopped, not wanting to finish the thought. Lily walked in just then, backpack bouncing, asking if they could make pancakes for dinner. Evan forced a smile, but the lines around his eyes didn't ease. That night, while Evan stayed up late balancing bills, Riley lay awake on the couch. The memory of Lily's drawing on the fridge flickered in her mind. She thought of how Evan had left his truck keys on the diner table that first night. Trust without asking anything back. Maybe it was her turn. The next afternoon, she walked into Carla's diner with Hope strapped to her chest. Carla looked up from wiping the counter. Well, if it isn't my runaway waitress. I'm not here for a job, Riley said quickly. I need a favour. Evan's garage is about to be shut down. Could we put up a flyer? Something simple? Discount oil changes, tyre checks, all money goes toward repairs. Carla studied her, arms crossed, then finally nodded. Hand me the marker. By evening, a flyer hung by the register. Support our local garage, this Saturday. Beside it sat a mason jar with Lily's handwriting scrawled across a label, for Dad's shop. Customers dropped in singles and quarters, a little at a time. By closing, the jar was already heavy. When Evan stopped by to pick up Lily from a school fundraiser, his eyes caught on the flyer and the jar. He turned slowly toward Riley. You did this? Her hands twisted in her sleeves. I thought maybe the town would help. You helped me. It seemed fair. For a long second, he just looked at her. Then his voice cracked with something caught between pride and disbelief. Thank you. Carla smirked from behind the counter. Better thank her quick, before she organises a parade. For the first time in weeks, Evan let out a laugh, rusty but real. That night, back at the house, Riley curled on the couch with Hope asleep against her chest. Evan carried Lily to bed, then returned to find Riley staring down at her phone, face pale. Another message glowed on the screen. You don't belong there. And soon they'll know it too. The week after the flyer went up, the garage fundraiser was in full swing. Neighbours pulled their cars into Evan's lot, kids bought lemonade from Lily's stand, and the donation jar grew heavier by the hour. For a moment, Evan felt something he hadn't felt in months. Hope. But that night, back at the house, Riley shifted uncomfortably on the couch. She brushed it off as nothing, just the baby stretching. By the time dawn broke, the pain had sharpened, her hand gripping the armrest until her knuckles turned white. Evan rushed her to the county hospital, his stomach in knots. He wasn't a stranger to emergencies. Engines failed, pipes burst, bills came due, but this was different. He couldn't fix this with a wrench. The delivery room was bright, sterile, full of sounds Riley had never heard before. Machines beeping, nurses moving fast. She looked terrified, younger than her years, sweat plastering her hair to her forehead. I can't do this, she gasped, clutching Evan's hand like it was the only solid thing in the room. Yes, you can, he said firmly, voice steady even though his chest felt like it might crack. You've already done harder things. You made it through nights nobody thought you would. This is the part where you win. Hours dragged. Evan stayed by her side through every contraction, counting breaths, whispering encouragements he didn't even know he had in him. He wiped her brow, ignored the ache in his own stomach, and prayed for strength neither of them had. And then, at 2 a.m, it happened. A cry cut through the air, sharp, fierce, alive. The nurse placed a tiny bundle in Riley's trembling arms. Her face broke open with tears. She's perfect, she whispered. She's mine. Evan swallowed hard, his own eyes burning. She always was. Riley kissed the baby's forehead, her voice breaking as she said, Hope. Her name is Hope. The room seemed to hold its breath. Evan leaned against the wall, exhausted but overwhelmed, watching Riley cradle the newborn like she had been waiting her whole life for this moment. But even in the glow of new life, shadows lingered. Later that night, when Riley finally dozed off with Hope against her chest, Evan stepped into the hallway to call Lily with the news. His phone buzzed before he could dial. Another message. She won't save you, and she won't last. Evan tightened his grip on the phone, staring at the words until the screen dimmed. For Riley, for Lily, for this new little girl, he knew one thing. Whoever was behind those messages had just made him more determined than ever. 2 days after the long night at the hospital, Evan's old pickup pulled into the driveway. Riley sat in the passenger seat, holding Hope so tightly it looked like she was afraid someone might take her away. Lily bounced on the porch, practically buzzing. Is she really here? Is she really ours? She shouted. Riley's lips trembled, but she managed to nod. She's really here. Inside, the little house felt both too small and suddenly too important. They didn't have a nursery, no pastel walls, no rocking chair from a catalogue. Just a living room with scuffed linoleum and a couch that had seen better days. That evening, Evan cleared the corner by the front window. He hauled out an old shelf, swept the floor, and set up a second-hand crib he'd found through a buddy at the garage. He sanded the edges smooth, tightened the bolts twice, and stood back with his arms folded. Riley tucked folded onesies into a basket, every movement slow and careful. When she finally laid Hope down in the crib, the baby's tiny chest rose and fell under the weak glow of the lamp. Riley pressed a hand to her own chest, whispering, "This isn't much, but it's ours." Later that night, Evan passed by and overheard Riley recording a message on her phone. Her voice was soft, almost breaking. "Hope, this corner doesn't look like much, but it's where I first believed I could be your mum. We didn't have a nursery, but we had love, and maybe that's enough." She saved the file, wiped her eyes quickly, pretending she hadn't cried. Evan didn't say anything, just leaned against the doorframe, heart tight. He remembered Ellen recording little notes for Lily when she was too sick to speak. The sound of Riley's whisper made something ache deep in him, but not in a way that hurt. The next morning, Lily ran barefoot into the room and pressed a new drawing onto the fridge. 4 stick figures this time. "This is us now," she said proudly, pointing. Riley smiled, brushing Lily's hair back. For the first time, the word us didn't feel foreign, but the piece was fragile. That week, Evan tried pushing through long shifts at the garage while Riley stayed home with Hope. One night, he came in pale and sweating, clutching his side. "Just ulcers acting up," he muttered, waving her off. Riley wasn't convinced. She laid Hope gently in the crib and looked him square in the eye. "You can't keep running yourself into the ground. Not for the garage, not for us. We need you standing, Evan." He didn't answer, just pressed a hand to the counter until the wave passed. That night, as Riley sat on the couch with Hope asleep on her chest, her phone buzzed. Another message. "You don't belong there, and one day they'll see it too." Her hands shook as she read it. This time, instead of hiding it, she turned the screen toward Evan. His jaw tightened, his eyes burning with something fierce. "Then let them see," he said, "because you're not going anywhere." Evan never liked doctors. After the scare in the kitchen, he promised Riley he'd slow down, but 2 days later he was back under the hood of a customer's sedan, ulcer meds rattling in his pocket. By the time he got home, Riley could see the strain in his shoulders. He waved her worry away with the same tired words, "I'm fine." But life wasn't fine, it was crowded. The calendar on the fridge was filled corner to corner with coloured markers. Evan's garage shifts in blue, Riley's CNA classes in red, Lily's after-school programme in green. Each square looked like a puzzle they barely managed to solve. 3 nights a week, Riley carpooled to the community college, leaving Hope with Evan and Lily. She kissed her daughter's forehead at the door, whispering, "Back soon, I promise." Still, the baby's cries clung to her all the way to class. Evan did his best. He fed Hope bottles while Lily worked on math homework at the table. More often than not, he dozed off in the armchair with the baby on his chest, the weight of both exhaustion and gratitude pressing into him. One Thursday night, dinner was nothing but reheated leftovers. Lily pushed her plate back, eyes shiny. "I miss when we ate together," she said softly. The room went still. Evan set down the stack of invoices he'd been sorting and pulled a carton of instant ramen from the cupboard. He poured boiling water, sat beside her, and slurped noodles straight from the bowl. "Then let's start now. Doesn't matter what we're eating. What matters is we're here." Lily grinned, the kind of grin that made the house warmer than any furnace. Riley sat across from them, smiling tiredly, and for one moment it felt like they had stitched something whole out of scraps. But reality didn't stay gentle for long. That weekend, a letter came addressed to Riley. She opened it at the kitchen table, her face draining of colour. "What is it?" Evan asked, already bracing himself. Her voice shook. "It's from him, my ex. He filed for a paternity test. He wants to prove Hope is his." The words hung in the air like smoke. Lily glanced between them, wide-eyed, sensing the storm without understanding it. Riley clutched the letter, her hands trembling. "If the court takes this seriously, they could drag me through custody hearings, child support, everything. I can't do that, Evan, not again." Evan took the letter, folded it carefully and set it on the counter. His jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. Then we face it together. Riley wanted to believe him, but deep down she wasn't sure the law cared about families built out of kindness. The courthouse smelled of stale coffee and old paper. Riley sat stiff on the wooden bench, her hands knotted in her lap. Evan stood beside her, jaw tight, ready to catch her if she collapsed. When the results came back, the words felt almost unreal. Negative. The man who had filed the petition wasn't Hope's father. Riley pressed both hands to her face, relief crashing over her like a wave. But the victory felt hollow. Her voice cracked as they walked out into the sunlight. It'll never be enough. There's always someone waiting to prove I don't belong. Evan didn't argue. He just opened the truck door for her, his silence stronger than any speech. A week later, the knock came. A white sedan in the driveway, a woman with a county badge stepping out. CPS. An anonymous report had accused Riley of being unfit, of dragging her baby into unstable circumstances. Evan's stomach dropped, but he greeted the worker calmly. "Come in." The inspection was methodical. She checked the fridge, peeked into the bathroom, glanced at the crib in the living room corner. Evan answered each question steadily, though his palms sweated. Riley sat on the couch holding Hope, frozen in fear. Then the worker crouched down in front of Lily, who sat cross-legged on the rug. "Sweetheart," she asked gently, "do you feel safe here?" The room seemed to stop breathing. Lily looked at Riley, then at her dad. Slowly she slipped her small hand into Riley's. "Safer than before," she said softly. "She makes us more safe." Tears spilled down Riley's cheeks before she could stop them. Evan swallowed hard, his throat tight. The worker closed her clipboard and nodded. "I see a family doing their best. That matters." Her voice softened. "This case is closed." When the door clicked shut, Riley broke down, shoulders shaking. Evan sat beside her, one hand steady on her back until the sobs eased. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Evan lingered in the quiet living room. He fed another log to the fire, staring into the flames. His phone buzzed on the table. Another message. "The county may buy your story, but truth always comes out." Evan gripped the phone, his knuckles white. Whoever was behind those words wasn't done. And deep down he knew. They hadn't seen the last storm. The days after the visit from child services felt strangely quiet, like the house itself was exhaling. Riley still jumped when her phone buzzed, but for once no one knocked at the door. Then came the morning the inspector's truck pulled into the garage lot. Evan wiped his hands on a rag, ulcer meds rattling in his pocket, and braced himself. The inspector walked through with a clipboard, checking off boxes one by one. New extinguisher, repaired ventilation, signage fixed. Finally, he scribbled his signature and nodded. "You're cleared." When the truck pulled away, Evan leaned against the workbench, eyes closed, a tired smile breaking across his face. For the first time in months, the garage was safe. That same week, Riley came home with an envelope clutched in her hand. She sat at the table across from Evan, slid the paper out and read the words twice before whispering, "I passed. I'm officially a CNA." Lily squealed, hugging her so hard that Hope fussed in Riley's arms. "You did it! You're like a real nurse now!" Even Evan, usually cautious with praise, smiled. "You earned this, Riley, be proud." They celebrated the only way they could afford, take-out pizza on the living room floor. Lily raised her slice like a toast. "To family," she declared. Riley laughed through tears. "To family." For one night, it felt like the house wasn't just surviving, it was living. A few days later, Ms. Alvarez stopped by with a folder in her hand. "I came to check in and to drop this off. The college is offering you a scholarship for the LPN Bridge program. It's part-time, flexible, could mean a better job down the road." Riley froze, staring at the papers. "That's amazing," she whispered. Evan glanced at the fridge calendar, already crowded with coloured markers. "But it means more nights away." Riley nodded slowly. "More nights away from Hope, from all of you." The baby gurgled in her crib in the corner, the same corner that had once been empty. Riley brushed her fingers over the edge of the crib and whispered, half to herself, "What if chasing more means losing what I already have?" The question hung heavy in the air. Evan didn't answer, not yet. He just looked at her, knowing the choice ahead wasn't only about school, it was about what kind of future Riley dared to believe she deserved. Spring rolled in slow and soft. The maple tree by the porch pushed out new leaves, and the air smelled of cut grass and damp earth. Inside the house, The calendar on the fridge was still crowded with blue, red and green markers, but somehow the chaos no longer felt like drowning. It felt like living. Riley chose to take the scholarship. She admitted it one evening over a sink full of dishes, her voice trembling. "I'm scared it'll take me away too much, scared I'll miss her growing up." He even dried a plate and set it aside. "Wanting more doesn't mean leaving what you already have," he said. "You've built something here, we're not going anywhere." Lily piped up from the table, grinning. "Good, because Hope already acts like this is her house." They laughed, and the sound carried through the little rooms like music. Over the next weeks, Riley started her classes, Evan cut back his garage hours, and Lily proudly took on big sister duties. The house was still messy, bottles in the sink, textbooks on the couch, a half-fixed radio on the counter, but it was theirs. One Sunday afternoon, they carried sandwiches and a blanket to the patch of grass behind the house. Hope toddled between them, curls bouncing in the sunlight. Lily wove dandelions into a crown and set it on her baby sister's head. Evan sat on the blanket, Kane resting at his side, watching it all like a man who knew how close he'd come to losing everything. Riley eased down beside him, tired but smiling. "Funny," she said. "I used to think family meant blood. Now I think it just means who shows up." He nodded, eyes wet. "And stays." As dusk settled, they carried Hope inside. Evan bent over the crib in the living room, the same corner that once held nothing but empty space, and tucked the quilt around her. She blinked sleepily, lips parting. "Papa," she murmured, the word barely formed but clear enough. Evan froze, then slowly he smiled. "I'm here, sweetheart." From the couch, Riley covered her mouth with her hand, tears slipping free. Lily whispered proudly, "Told you. She thinks this is her house." They all laughed softly through the tears, the sound warmer than the fire crackling in the hearth. Later that night, when the house was quiet, Evan sat in his chair by the window. The crib stood steady in the corner, holding more than just a baby. It held proof that broken things could knit together, that kindness could take root, that love didn't need fanfare to last. Some stories don't end with grand victories. They end here, in the glow of a lamp, a baby breathing steady, a family that wasn't supposed to exist yet did. An ordinary miracle. Sometimes, the most extraordinary things are born from the smallest acts of kindness. What began as one man offering a ride on a stormy night became a home, a family, and a reason to believe again. It's a reminder that family isn't always blood. It's the people who choose to stay, even when life gives them every reason to leave. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone step into your life at just the right moment? Someone who wasn't bound by family ties but changed everything simply by showing up? Share your story in the comments. Your words might be the encouragement someone else needs tonight. Thank you for spending this time with us. Until next time, may your heart stay warm, and we'll see you again on Rain Inside.